Well, good morning. Thanks for joining us. We're at the Sterling Heights Regional Chamber of Commerce, our business safety webinar today. I was just joking with our panelists this morning that the brainchild for this webinar came from a conversation about secure internet and making sure that our employees are using secure internet at home. So I hope you all are today. My name is Stacy Ziarko. I'm the president and CEO of the Sterling Heights Regional Chamber of Commerce. I have some great special guests this morning that are going to share with you their wealth of information, that will keep us safe in this remote workforce and as we all start to return to work. I have said since this all started that we're not all going to look different, and our return to works all won't look different either. Some might be working remotely for a few more months. Some might be doing hybrid schedules. But how do we make sure as a business that we're keeping ourselves safe? So I am going to turn first and let Rebecca Wilson from the Dobrusin law firm introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. And thank you, Stacy, for having me here. My name is Rebecca Wilson, and I am a partner with the Dobrusin law firm in Pontiac, Michigan. We handle intellectual property matters, and my part of the practice focuses particularly on the trademark and copyright realm of things. So I help businesses kind of protect their brand and enforce their brand and go through all the motions as it comes to building that brand. So I look forward to this talk today.
Rebecca, I remember you telling me once that it's better to call you ahead of time than have to need you. That's what I keep in the back of my head too.
Absolutely.
And next up, Matt Loria from Auxiom.
I'm on mute.
I was just going to tell you.
Yeah, the famous mistake of every Zoom and Teams call, right?
We can check that off the bingo card, right?
Exactly. There we go. We got that out of the way. So Matt Loria from Auxiom. So we provide IT solutions and IT security solutions for businesses, mostly located here in the Detroit metro area. And yeah, very similar to Rebecca. Our advice would be call us before you do something rather than after you have a problem. So. Looking forward to having this conversation with everybody today, and thanks for having us, Stacy.
Yeah. And then I'd like to introduce Erin Stein from First State Bank. First State Bank is our chamber champion and one of our largest supporters of the chamber. We have several of their clients on the call this morning too, and their customers, so we're happy. So Erin, take it away.
Thank you so much, Stacy. My name is Erin Stein. I am the cash management sales manager for First State Bank, and I've worked for them for over 20 years. I specialize in all of the services that businesses use to manage their cash flow and protect their accounts from fraud. So just like everyone else on this call, let your bank be your partner and help you protect your accounts before you have a problem. So we're going to go over some of the services that we offer and things that you can look for and ask for from your financial institution and financial partners to protect your accounts. So I'm looking forward to this today as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Erin. We're grateful to have you all here this morning. A couple housekeeping items. We are in a webinar format, so you can see us and we can't see you this morning. But if you do have questions, please put them in the Q&A in the chat, and we will make sure that at the end of the presentation, we bring that up to our panelists this morning. I also wanted to let you know we have an upcoming chamber event that I hope that you'll consider joining us for. It's next Friday, March the 12th at 9 a.m. And we have pulled together in partnership with the Macomb Chamber of Commerce, the Macomb County Health Department, and also our friends at Beaumont and Henry Ford. The biggest topic of conversation most of us have had over the last couple of months has been about vaccines. And there's a lot of information out there about the vaccines. And we're going to bust some of those myths to make sure that when your turn comes to get the vaccine, that you're ready and prepared with all the information. So this is a free community event that we are doing for chamber members, chamber non-members, anyone that needs to hear this information to keep us all safe and so that we can all be returning to normal more quickly. So I encourage you, Ashley, I will have you put that link in the chat if you don't mind to register for that event, but I encourage you to join us that day. So again, we appreciate that you're here. We look forward to the information that you can provide for us. And so Rebecca, I am going to turn it over to you.
Okay, perfect.
There we go.
I think Ashley's in charge of my slides here. So
Ashley's in charge of a lot of things. So,
I'm just letting it all happen.
Exactly.
Letting it all happen at this point. So yeah, thank you guys for being here. And again, thank you for having me. My portion of the talk is going to be, at first I was like, gosh, how does this fit in or what are we going to do? But it really does matter, especially right now, like in these times we're in, about protecting your brand. And it's so important to do those things. So I kind of broke it down into a couple different parts. Um, we can go to the next slide, Ashley, for this one. So there was three different aspects I kind of looked at, and there's so much information as it relates to this topic. So bear with me because it's going to be just a very general overview at this point. So three things I broke it down to being your actual mark, meaning your brand, how you're using it, and then how you're enforcing it. So what I mean by that is, do you actually have a mark? Like, do you have a solid trademark that you use, that you've used for years? And then I urge people to think about, okay, where did it come from? Was it something that came off the top of your head? Is it maybe a family name that goes way back? Is it something that you maybe saw once upon a time and thought it would be a cool name to use? And then we go into things such as like, how long have you used it for? And these are all factors because they kind of play into how you're going to protect your mark. So when you're using your mark, there's so many different aspects as well, which we'll get into in a few minutes, as how you need to use it to make sure that you're strengthening your mark rather than weakening your mark. So that affords you different types of protection as well. And then as far as the enforcement aspect goes, we look at a lot of how are you actually keeping up with your mark? Are you regularly checking on it to make sure if you do have a filed registration, is it updated? Have you renewed it? Are you still using it for everything you applied for? So there's so many different parts to it, especially when you're dealing with, especially in this day and age now, everything is online. So much of your marketing and advertising is focused on social media content, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok lately. So you have to make sure that you're using your brand and using it correctly in order to enforce it. So I want to touch base on the first aspect of it on the next slide. And this goes into what is your trademark? So, and people ask me this a lot, what is an actual trademark? Because I tie it into your brand. So many times, more so than not, your trademark is your brand is your trademark, but your brand is what you make of it. So there's different aspects to it. You can have things like your name, your actual business name that you're using, whether it's on social media, your Etsy shop, an Amazon store, your brick and mortar storefront. Is your name something that you've made up? So it could be a family name that you've held on to for years. And those are the types of things you need to think to yourself, okay, is this important to protect? And then your business name, I also ask people to think about, okay, are you actually describing what you do? Because in the grand scheme of things, and there's not enough time to get into all of this, but you generally don't want your name, your business name, to describe what you do. You want to make sure you're building on it to build that brand. And then other things to think about are things like from a logo perspective. Did you have someone design your logo, or did you go onto a clip art or a paid site and buy certain things? Because you have to keep in mind, the more accessible that logo is to other people, the less protectable it is. And let me explain that. So if you can go onto a site and purchase a certain logo or a certain shape, whatever it may be, to use, that usually means that hundreds of other people can also go online and purchase that same thing to use because they're purchasing a license, which means that they have the right to use it for the exact same thing you're using it for without restriction. So I always try to tell people not to use clip art. You know, modify your logo design as much as possible to make it original. And the more original and the more unique your logo is, the more protectable it's going to be as well. And this is important too. Again, in these current times, there's so many in the App Store. Let's say you're in the App Store. What you're going to see when you download somebody's mobile app or application is the icon. That's their logo. That's what you want people to remember. So the more unique and original it is, the more protectable it's going to be. How about a catchy tagline or a slogan? Those are things that are big these days as well, because you need something on social media that's going to catch somebody's attention quickly. We only pay attention for bits at a time. So you need to catch your consumer's attention or your client's attention. So taglines, phrases, catchphrase, all of those are your trademark and protectable as well. And there's different variants also on protecting it. So you can have a trademark and you can have it protected just by using it. It's more weak than it is strong. You can register your trademark on a state level, which is just covering the state of Michigan. You can register your trademark on a federal level. And by trademark, I mean your name, your logo, a tagline, a slogan. So you can have actual registrations for these and protect them, or you can just have protection by using these things every day in what you do. Of course, there's limitations to every form of registration, but that is a way to protect them. And then we move on to the next aspect that I talk to clients about is a lot. And by a lot, I mean a lot. The use of their mark. So I kind of put these bullets here too. So if you have a business name, even if you don't have a registered trademark, think of this from your business perspective. You need to be consistent. And by that, I mean, use your mark in the same way as much as possible. And, people kind of look at me funny when I talk about this because it really does help your brand, your mark, and it helps strengthen it when you're using it consistently. And by that, I mean using it in the same font, the same size, the same placement, using the same color schemes consistently. A lot of people think, oh, I'm bored with this, so from year to year, they might change up their color scheme. But that really doesn't help you build a protectable brand. So consistency is key. The other thing I talk about is using it constantly. So people are like, oh, it's overkill. I don't want to put it on everything, but that's exactly what you want to do. You want to put it on everything. You want your name and your logo. You want it on your letterhead. You want it on your signature block. You want it on your website landing page. You want it on your Instagram, your TikTok, your Facebook. Wherever you are talking about your goods and your services that you're offering, you want your mark or your brand to be right there. Because when you get down to it and you're building your brand, which is kind of the last piece of this, you want people to remember what your brand represents. So when you're building your brand, I ask people a lot of times too, if you use a designer, if you use an advertising marketing company, a lot of times they'll give you what I refer to as a brand catalog. So it literally lays out how you can use your mark, how you should use your mark, the fonts, the typesets, the colors, everything that's associated with it. Because this is important to think about if you're letting other people use it. So even if, let's say you're a 501c3 and you are having a fundraiser with another organization, you want to make sure they are, if they're using your mark in their advertising, you want to make sure they're doing it the correct way. So you want to make sure they're doing it consistent to how you use your mark. You want to make sure that you have much more of control over this than other parties do. So you want to limit who else can use your mark. You want to make sure that you have that control over how it's used, what content it's used with, because all of that goes towards building your brand. Your brand is so much more than just your business name or your logo or your tagline. I urge people to always remember when you're protecting something, you're protecting it as a whole. So your brand is representative of who you are, who your employees are, how they represent themselves, and just generally, the goodwill that you've built up in your business. So when somebody says your company and they're like, oh, they're a great company, they're a great company to work for, a great company to deal with, that is your brand. So that is what you want to protect, is that goodwill that's associated with it. And with this, and like I mentioned previously, the social media aspect of it. So because so much of this is social media right now, you want to make sure that you're constantly out there on social media. The more you're using the mark, the more consistently you're using the mark, the more you're constantly using your mark, the better off you are for protecting your mark. And then the last part of this that I talk about quite a bit as well as actually enforcing your mark. And I look at this in 3 steps where I say you need to patrol, you need to review, and you need to reach out. And what I mean by that is a couple things. When it comes to enforcing your mark, you need to make sure that other people aren't using it. And so some clients I have, they have someone in-house that is constantly looking on the internet. You know, they're on websites, they're on social media, they're looking for other people that might be using the same mark, because what you want to do at that point is decide if you need to reach out to those third parties, because the more you have third parties that are using your mark or some kind of variation of your mark, the more it dilutes your mark and your brand that you've built. So I try to tell people when they're going through this to patrol the internet regularly. Again, I have clients that do that themselves. They hire someone in-house to do it. I mean, let's be honest, everybody's on social media for at least a couple minutes a day, and that's all you really need to put a couple words into, you know, your search bar and look at it that way. I tell people look for similar names, similar logos that also do the same thing as you do. Because remember, when you're looking to protect your mark, if you offer cleaning services and someone else is using your name to sell tennis shoes, it's probably not going to be confusing, and therefore you probably don't need to protect your mark against that third party. But if you have someone that's offering the same services or selling the same goods as you are, and also using your name or your logo, that's something that you want to think about reaching out to them. Also review it regularly. You don't have to, I'm not saying you have to have a registration for a trademark or your logo or your tagline. It is important. On the federal level, it's important. On the state level, it's important. But if you don't have either one of those, you can always use the superscript TM, which is the little tiny TM next to your name or next to your logo. And this just puts people on notice that you are using it as a trademark, so that if something does come up, you know, they can't necessarily say, well, I had no idea. It's not foolproof by any means, but anybody can use that superscript TM. You can also use the copyright symbol in anything that you hold out to be a copyright, which is the circle C. What you can't use is the circle R, which means you have a registered trademark application, and that's on the federal level. So unless you have a federal registration, you can't use the circle R. But you can still put the superscript TM next to things. Some people don't like it because it's not aesthetically pleasing, but it does hold out that your brand and your logo are being put out there as a trademark. And I tell people this as well too. I don't know how I'm doing on time, but listen to, you know, what you have. Listen to your gut. Trust your gut. If you don't value your brand, if you don't value and protect your mark and what you've built up, no one else is going to do it for you. So regularly patrol these things, review different things, reach out to third parties. And when I say reach out to third parties, I also want you to think about this. Doing it yourself can be tricky. You always want to be gentle the first time around when you're dealing with sending letters or doing anything of that nature, even a simple phone call. So if you're not comfortable doing it yourself, reach out to an attorney. they can give you a little bit more guidance when it comes to that sort of thing, tell you, okay, do you really have rights? Because there's certain intricacies you're going to want to find out before you reach out to these third parties. So I always tell people to investigate fully, talk to an attorney before you do anything. So, and lastly, I guess just to leave you with this too, I tell people, you know, develop your brand, tend to your brand, use your brand, and protect your brand. And if if you don't do those things, you're not going to build a strong brand generally. So I know it's super general, and hopefully it helped a little bit. And just as because it's the lawyer side, as we note here, none of this is intended as legal advice, educational purposes only. And that's it for me. So thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. I think you got a couple of us on the call taking some notes and thinking about what we do on a daily basis. I know that we have a trademark program, and we utilize it. We trademark the logo when we talk about it, and we don't often trademark it in print or things like that. So I think you got me thinking about different things to investigate as well. So next up, Matt Loria from Auxiom. Take it away, my friend.
Yeah, I don't have time to do this because I have to go back and start taking care of my trademark and that. So thanks, Rebecca, for properly scaring us on that. That was great information. Thanks. So we're going to talk about remote work safety. As everybody knows, last March, so many people went from working in an office to working at home, and life changed really abruptly. The interesting stats on that, if you flip forward a couple of slides, I know we already kind of did the little bit about myself. So the interesting stats on this from Gartner, which is one of the largest research firms in the world as it relates to technology and technology-related systems and things of that nature. They're estimating 82% of the business leaders plan to keep at least part of their workforce work from home structure even after COVID-19 is no longer a threat. So essentially, it's predicted to completely change the landscape of what we had before. So as everybody says, the new normal, which I believe is a banned term. I think someone trademarked that, so no one else can say it anymore. And 47% are planning to allow folks to work from home permanently. We've actually had clients tell us they're not renewing their lease. Everyone's going to be staying home. And so, the main question is, so what are we going to do now with this more complex hybrid workforce? Because essentially, in the world of technology, it's a lot easier to control when everybody's in one area, using the same internet, behind the same firewall, with a lot of the protocols and safeguards in place. And those really go out the window, kind of as Stacy mentioned, when everybody goes and works from home. So we've got a few tips. I mean, there's hundreds of tips, but we've got a few tips here of things that are not going to be popular, but they're things that are really proven to work in order to protect your systems. So don't allow employees to check personal emails on company computers. So I'm glad I'm not in person, because this is when the tomatoes would start to be thrown at the stage when we say this. But unfortunately, spamming emails are so sophisticated. They're coming through all the time, and with the ability of the spammers using phishing emails, which actually are far more targeted, where they're actually seeking information from you, and sometimes they can look like something that they're not. They can be fake. So Stacy, I could get an email that looks like it's coming from Stacy Ziarko, but it's not really, and she's asking me for my Sterling Heights chamber password or something like that, or things of that nature. When we open up to allow employees to use their personal email on a company computer, that's like letting people in past the firewalls in some way, shape, and form. And so one of the ways to thwart that is to simply say, this is your work computer. This is what you use for work, and so we don't check personal email on company computers. And there are systems that we can use to actually stop that from happening. So it can block those things from even being possible to get to. Now, again, like I said, this is not a very popular decision, and so you may, as a business leader, you may choose to not enforce that. And so we each have to make our decisions. It's very similar to like an attorney. I always liken IT to similar to taking advice from legal counsel, which is they're going to give you the best information they can, but it's always up to you as the business leader to make the final decision. And so, each of these is a tip, and people can take it or leave it because it may impact their business, right? I mean, you may, if you have the right type of workforce, by not allowing them to check personal email on company computers, you might alienate some people. So you do have to weigh the risks of the safety behaviors against the actual against the risk. So next up, as a tip, is to harden your systems, and this is something that usually you'll need your IT professional in-house, or if you outsource your IT to a managed IT service provider such as Auxiom. These are things that you would look to us to make sure that we're enforcing. And that's upgrade servers and upgrade programs. So many times do we see people with out-of-date software, out-of-date equipment, and the problem is that on those systems, you can't install the most recent security updates in many cases, and those security updates are put out by the manufacturers of the. In some cases, on certain types of hardware, there's firmware updates, and then on software like operating systems. Those updates contain security updates inside of them, and so very, very essential that those get done, and done in a regular basis. So you want to make sure that there's, if an update comes out on the first of a month, you want to make sure by the end of that month that is actually done, or whatever the pre-prescribed number of days that you decide is relevant. Because the hard part about updates is that updates can crash your system. So they have to be done in the safest manner possible in order to be more trouble than they're worth. Number two on the harden your systems is to uninstall non-essential programs. So if you just take a look at your cell phone, I'm totally guilty of this, and after I say this, I will have to eat my own dog food and go delete some of those unused apps on my phone, and then the same about on the computer. Those are all gateways. Those are all those systems, or those programs are just another waypoint that an attacker can use to get in. So looking for a weak point in one of those, each of those systems or programs typically will have updates. So if you're behind on updates on those and you don't have automatic updates enforced on your phone or on your computer, that's another great way for them to get in. Another unpopular at times bit of advice is to never make any of the computer users in your organization letting them be an admin. When you open up somebody to be an admin, they can essentially load anything they want on the computer, which means if their credentials are compromised, or their system is compromised in any way, that computer now is the gateway into your entire system, which can go from PC to server to firewalls to SaaS systems to whatever it might be, and can really start to cause the damage, because that computer user was listed as an administrator, which meant that they had unfettered access and could go anywhere and do anything inside the systems. So those are three, again, other kind of subcategories under how to harden your systems. The third major category is the next one here, which is have your employees use a VPN connection when working from home. So VPN, virtual private network, is essentially a way to make it like those people that are at home are going through, are in the office essentially. And so in your office, you would typically have security features such as a firewall. And we would always recommend what's called a next generation firewall because it's so much more secure than a traditional firewall and watches so many other things. And so by forcing the folks that work for you to use a VPN connection, which I use the word forcing, but what you can do is you can just set up the computer to actually make that happen every time. So it's not like a draconian thing where you're saying, you must do this every time. When they log into their computer, before going out to the internet, it actually takes them through the VPN tunnel, back through the corporate firewall, and then out to the internet. And so then you have that traffic secured in many more ways than what it would be if just left alone. And for those who are, a fully remote workforce, that can go through a data center, that can go through a variety of other options. It doesn't have to be just through your office firewall per se. So that's another one there for you. And then the next one is when your folks are out and about, and so now that some restrictions are being lifted, this is another great reminder because people are now getting back into Starbucks and back into Panera Bread or wherever it is that they are, into the airport, and we do not want them to use public Wi-Fi. Public Wi-Fi is a big no-no. You're much better off investing in either the little hotspots from Verizon or having them connect through their phone rather than going through public Wi-Fi. You can use a VPN from those through the hotspot as well, so you can have kind of that doubly protected connection. But please say no to public Wi-Fi. And that's about it. Those are, I mean, like I said, there's hundreds of tips that we can offer, but these are just a few that you could possibly put into practice and keep yourself a little bit more safe in the changing world.
Thanks, Matt. One of the things that the chamber did last February, even before COVID was on our radar, was that we had a VPN installed. And it made the transition from working from home manageable and easier. We could access all of our files, but I also knew that we were all very safe working from home too. So I highly recommend the VPN access if you do not have one. Definitely made life a lot easier.
Great.
And less worries that you didn't have to, and it is not uncommon for someone, you talk about phishing emails a lot, for someone on my team to get an email once a week asking me to buy gift cards, to send them something. Those are very, very common. You and I have talked a lot about that over the years.
Sure, especially in your business or any business that operates with small businesses or individuals that maybe are using Yahoo, Gmail, some sort of other public type of email systems. The more of those types of emails that are coming through your systems that are not through a corporate email, certainly allow for a lot more phishing.
Great information, Matt. Thank you so much. And Erin.
That leads perfectly into what I'm going to talk about.
It's like we planned it that way.
I know, it could not have gone better. So thank you, Matt. So what I'm going to talk about today, from what we've heard this morning, businesses are kind of under attack. You have a lot of people that are trying to gain access to your systems, to your financial information. They might be trying to duplicate your brand and your logo. And, some of the things that you can put in place from home really can help protect you and protect your accounts. So it's not just large corporations. I know that we hear about it on the news, but it's not just large corporations that are under attack. It's small and medium-sized businesses as well. So unfortunately, I frequently work with customers that have been the target of check and payment fraud. And what I want to do today is share a few of their experiences and questions with you and discuss some of the solutions that your financial institutions can provide to help you protect your accounts. So, businesses are under attack. If you want to just flip to the next. I'm going to give you a couple examples of, calls that we get from our customers. So we got a call, I want to say it was a year ago. They called to let us know that one of their key suppliers' email was hacked. So the valid communication relating to a payment from their supplier was forwarded to them with instructions on where to send payment because they said that they had changed their account. But unfortunately, that email was fraudulent. All the information in that email was on company letterhead, bore the logo and what appeared to be the CEO's signature of their partner. Thankfully, they're like, we verified the change with a contact in the company. We actually made a phone call and we didn't end up sending this out, but it came so close that we were ready to send out a payment. Another instance, we had a customer that had access to a lot of online banking services. It turns out that she had malware installed in her computer and she didn't know it for about 6 months. So they, criminals had been watching what she was doing and watching her activity and knew what she had access to. So one morning, she logged into her online banking through a secure connection, and her system was automatically flooded with about 4,000 emails. And she didn't know what was happening, so she got up. They had an in-house IT person, so she got up from her computer to have them check it, and she just walked away from her computer. And while she did that, and they noticed that her activity went dead, they took over her computer and they sent out 4 fraudulent wires that totaled almost $4,000. So if you want to talk about statistics and how frequently things like this happen, I'm a member of the Association of Financial Professionals, and what they do is they conduct a survey of all of their members, and a lot of their members are small to medium-sized companies. They're all across the country. They're controllers and treasurers and organizations that are part of this group, and they report on the fraud that they've experienced throughout the previous year. So the report that came out in 2020 talked about the fact that 75% of organizations experienced business email compromise. And that just went to support what Matt was talking about. You are going to have a lot of attacks come through email. And when your employees are going in and they're clicking on emails, they can result in financial losses. So 38% of the organizations that had the business email compromise ended up reporting financial losses because of it. So these are things you really have to keep in mind with your workforce and with you and your employees as you're working from home and how you are conducting business. I can't agree with Matt enough that you really kind of need to keep your business functions and your business duties separate from your personal. I know as a bank, of course, we're very, very careful about this. We all have, company issued devices, and we don't do anything personal on our company issued devices. And I think that's a good habit and a practice to be in. And I think it's something that you should invest in training for all of the people that work for you so that they understand how important it is to keep those things separate. A lot of the email compromise scams targeted wires and ACH, so electronic transfer of funds from business accounts. Okay, so there was like 42%, and another 37% were like ACH. And even though we've moved into an era where we're doing a lot more electronic transactions, 74% of organizations still experience check fraud in 2019. It went up from the previous year. So you think that you're doing away with checks, but it's still the most prevalent form of business to business payments. So with checks, your information is all out there. Your name, your logo, your address, your routing number and account number are on those checks, in addition to a signature of a person that's authorized to sign for you for your business. So you want to make sure that you have systems in place that can protect you. So business owners really need to kind of embrace the fact that their financial institutions can provide services to protect your accounts. We can help you automate your monitoring so that you're less susceptible if your business is targeted. So we need to change our behaviors to be more proactive versus reactive. The last thing that you want to be doing is calling your banker, telling us that you have to change everything today because $20,000 has disappeared from your account because you had a lot of checks come through that were fraudulent. So I'm going to have you switch over to the next slide. Most of our business owners, when they discover that they've had an issue, they said, you know, I wish there was a way for me to verify payments before they leave our accounts. And the thing is, there is. We have online banking services that can be accessed through your phone and through your mobile devices, just not on public Wi-Fi. And you can add dual control. So even if you yourself are not the person that's sending out payments for your business, if you are utilizing one of your employees to send wire payments, initiate ACH files, or do online banking payments like bill pay for you, you can set up dual control. Banks have the ability to do this so that you have an employee that initiates the file, and then you get a message that the file was initiated and you can approve it. So at least, even though you're not in the same office and in the same building, you can still remotely see what's happening with your money and your accounts very easily. So just over Christmas, we had a customer that came into the branches and they were talking about check fraud. So I'm going to have you. She came into the branches and she said, oh my God, we reconcile our account frequently, but it's only like once a week. Within 3 days, we had 7 fraudulent checks post to our account totaling more than $16,000. I wish this didn't happen as frequently as it did. We talked to our customers about a service that we offer, but she didn't have it in place beforehand. And the ramifications of not having it in place ahead of time means that the accounts have to be closed out. You have to get new checks. You have to change access. So I'm going to talk about Positive Pay, which is one of the best services that I think we offer to our customers. So for anyone and any business that writes a lot of checks, it's very important for you to add Positive Pay to your business checking accounts. So in its simplest form, Positive Pay is a service that matches the account number, the check number, and the dollar amount of each check that's presented for payment to the bank against a list of checks that you sent to us earlier. So when we get the files from other institutions where they've been cashed, our system automatically checks to see if they match. I think if you have a lot of distractions, people are working from home, everyone's schedule is different, you know, you might not be logging into your account several times throughout the day to kind of see what's going on with it. When you have Positive Pay in place, you will get a notification immediately that you have a problem. Because the second that the system sees that there is a disconnect between the check number and the amount, or if it's check number that's trying to clear your account that you didn't tell us about, you're going to get a notification, and it's going to be really easy for you to either pay that item because you forgot about it or to return it, and it never hits your account. I think people don't really take advantage of it, and it's so inexpensive. It's a great way for you to protect your accounts. So whenever anyone has that happen, their next question for me is always, will Positive Pay protect my account from fraudulent automatic payments? And the answer is no. Positive Pay protects your account from fraudulent checks. But there is another system that protects your account from fraudulent ACH withdrawals, and those are debit filters. So in order to really protect your account, you really need to make sure that you have both positive pay in place and ACH debit filter. So what ACH debit filter does is it screens all of the automatic payments that are coming through your account. So when you have accounts with us, you can go to your banker and say, you know what, I know that I always have an auto pay that comes out for my insurance, for my payroll, for utility bills, and for, you know, our business credit card. So these are the businesses that take payments from me every month. Those I'm going to authorize, and everyone else I'm going to review, so that if any other automatic payments come through that I don't expect, I'll automatically get a notification the following morning. So instead of you having to worry and comb your accounts and look at every single line item to make sure that everything that's on your accounts is something that you authorized and that you wrote, you have systems in place now that can do it for you and then notify you if something goes wrong. So I think that those services are invaluable. I try to talk to customers about it. Sometimes they choose to wait, but I think when you're talking about 81% of businesses being targeted, you have to really think about the fact that it wouldn't be unlikely for your business to be a target and to have financial losses because of, you know, some kind of scam that somebody's trying to run on your account. I think the next thing I want to talk about is cash processing. You know, not everyone does everything with checks and electronic payments. There are still some businesses that have high volumes of cash, and the service that we offer to protect our customers on that side is something called Smart Safe. So Smart Safes are safes that are installed at your location, and they are bolted to the floor. They have such fantastic technology. They can detect counterfeit bills. And when you have all of your employees that are handling a lot of cash, at the end of the day, throughout the day, they can put the cash into the Smart Safe. The Smart Safe counts it for you, so you don't have as high a risk for embezzlement and loss. It's counted automatically. It goes into a safe that at that point no one can access, and the Smart Safe actually transmits the amount of money that was put into the safe to the bank. So you're getting daily credit for the cash that you've taken in without having to send one of your employees to physically carry that cash to the bank. And then you can contract with a armored car carrier to pick that up. So again, you're reducing your liability by not having employees or yourself carry that cash around at risk for theft and loss. So those are some basic services that we offer to our customers to protect from fraud. These are just some best practices I want to go over with you. Just as Matt said, always send sensitive information in an encrypted format. And sensitive information would be anything that contained a date of birth, your social security number or your EIN, your driver's license number, or any account numbers. So you always want to make sure if you're doing anything with your bank, I know that we offer a secure encrypted email link for our customers to send information and data to us so that you're not putting that out there in an unsecured format. Also, your bank would never request information from you that contains sensitive information. We would never do that in an email. And if you ever get any requests, do not send funds on an unexpected request. If you get notifications for changing account information or changing payment information from one of your suppliers or customers, make sure that you verify it with a separate system. So especially by phone, try to talk to someone in the other company to make sure that that email was valid. Invest in training for you and yourself to be suspicious of emails. And what I'll do is I have an email questionnaire sheet that I will send to Stacy so she can post it for everyone that's attended this meeting. Just a questionnaire that just kind of goes through, you know, what to ask, the questions to ask yourself if you get an email that you didn't really expect. Don't ever click on hyperlinks or open attachments from unknown senders or solicitations. Just like Matt said, don't access your bank account and information while you're on public Wi-Fi. So again, use a VPN, connect through that network, and make sure that you're keeping all of your financial information safe. Just as Matt said, make sure all of your devices have up-to-date antivirus and malware, spyware, ransomware software. If you don't have current software, you're not going to be protected. So it's really, really important to make sure that it's always updated. Let those automatic updates roll. And I'm going to say, I put 8 characters in this email. I know that our information security person is going to still kill me if I don't say that 14 characters is preferred. So 14 characters for passwords are really advised. I have customers that still don't use strong passwords. Use password 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, I can't emphasize strongly enough, do not use a simple password for your banking access, and make sure that all of your employees are using strong passwords as well. So 14 characters or more, you want to make sure that you're using an uppercase and a lowercase letter, a special character and a number. And another thing too is security questions. You don't have to give the real answer to security questions, okay? You can come up with a system to kind of create answers to security questions so you'll never forget those again. Our information security advisor for our bank, she sent a tip. She said, you know, creating a strong answer to a security question, you could use something like, what's your mother's maiden name? The last word in the security question can become the first part of your answer. And then you choose a random word that would be the last part of your answer, or some kind of, not even a word out of the dictionary, just something that you know you use for everything. So for example, your password, if you use dog as like the last part of that phrase, the answer to your security question would then be name dog. If you use that methodology, you'll never forget the answer to your security questions. And putting all of these practices in place will hopefully protect you and protect your accounts from access and from being hacked. Again, the last thing that we ever want to do is have to help you with a problem. We would much rather have all of this in place so that if you're ever a victim of check fraud, it doesn't affect you and you're protected, and you can just click return and you can move forward with your day knowing that your accounts are kept safe and secure. So thank you. That's what I've got. I hope I didn't take up too much time. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. My information's on the slide.
Thank you, Erin. Again, thanks to all of our presenters this morning. We have a couple minutes for questions. I'll give you all a couple seconds to put them in the chat if there are any. Erin, that's going to be my new trivia question. I like to have one at different meetings. So my new trivia question is going to be, how many characters should your password be and what should it not be? I am amazed that people still use password 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. I do have a question, and I don't know if this is for Matt or for Erin. What is considered safer, using Wi-Fi that does have a password or using data?
You mean on your using
Yeah,
like cell
if
phone
I have a
data?
cell phone that has data to it that, you know, is not connected to anyone. Which one
Yeah.
should I be using?
You want to use that every time.
Okay.
Mhm.
Awesome. Ashley put the vaccine myth information in the chat. Guys, I think this is great information. I am a subscriber of Positive Pay and actually had to sign off on a Positive Pay check this morning. So I know that it does work. It shows me a copy of the check. I clicked accept and it notifies the bank that is a legitimate check from my organization. So definitely a great resource. You all provide great information, great resources. We will also share this webinar. This has been recorded. We'll share it with those that registered today, obviously with our presenters as well. I can't thank you enough. I think that as we navigate our new return to work, whether that's in your house, in your living room, back in your office, you know, we all have some tips to take with us moving forward. I've learned something from all of you. I think each one of you will be getting a phone call from me in the next couple of weeks. I encourage our participants today to do the same and to let us know any other suggestions for topics like this that you might have. We love being able to profile our members and allowing them to bring you all some really good information. So that's all from us. Have a wonderful day and enjoy the sunshine today that's going to be out there. It might be cold, but at least the sun is here.
Oh, thank you, Stacy.
Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.